everybody. Today we're here on Cam Matrix with Steve Wallace of Holbrook Asphalt Company. And I want to thank you for joining Cam Matrix recently, Steve, and welcome aboard.
Well, thank you, Carrie. It's my pleasure and happy to be on board.
Yeah. So, okay, you and I had a really long telephone conversation, and we went in depth a little bit about what you guys do and how different it is from the average asphalt contractor. So I was going to let you kind of give us a little bit of information about that.
Okay, great. First, just a little bit about Holbrook Asphalt. We've been in business since 1998. We are headquartered in St. George, Utah. We operate in 24 states from California to the Carolinas, and we're in over 200 agencies, 200 cities across the country. Specifically, since 2002, now for 20 years, we've been providing our primary product, which is branded as HA5, and it is a high-density mineral bond. It is a pavement preservation treatment. We work with agencies, state DOTs, but moreover, specifically here in Florida, with a lot of associations and private communities. It's a preservation treatment which is designed to lower the overall cost of street ownership for these private communities.
So does it extend the life then, I guess? If they've had their asphalt, let's just say they've recently had a whole new thing of asphalt done, and it's been repaved, resurfaced, everything's good. When do you bring in your product, I guess?
So the overall age, condition, and porosity of the asphalt will determine whether or not our product is a suitable preservation treatment to extend that useful service life.
Okay.
There's a lot of treatments out there. In a perfect world, you want to get on an asphalt pavement within the first 3 or 4 years. Typically, that's when you're going to see the majority of the oxidation and loss of flexibility in an asphalt binder in that first 4 years. Asphalt is a very, very expensive piece of infrastructure, whether you're a state DOT and a public entity or a private community. It's inevitable that asphalt has to be replaced at some point.
Yeah.
And in our industry, it's very well known that if you don't do anything to prolong the life of the asphalt, you're going to replace it in 15 to 20 years. That's just a given. Many agencies, because they have quite a large budget, they just factor on doing that anyway.
Right.
So that's why it seems like we see the crews out constantly overlaying and milling and resurfacing asphalt pavements everywhere we drive. But the idea is to get more life out of it. And you can see 35, 40 to 45 years out of asphalt pavement if you can slow the oxidation, which is naturally occurring. It oxidizes and receives a lot of damage from direct sunlight and, of course, moisture. The intrusion of water really degrades the long-term capability to support not only traffic loads, but also to minimize the climate-related damage that you often see with asphalt.
Right. So it's even one of those things where if you're unsure you want to do your entire community, check out doing it just on your high traffic area. You have residents coming and going, but the main thoroughfare is getting that visitor traffic constantly, service providers coming and going. And there's even some communities that have a problem with people like using their community as a go-through area.
Exactly. Yeah, we do see that a lot. And, there's a lot of treatments available in the industry. We're one of probably 6 or 7 different types of treatments. But like every treatment, ours also has its limits. So there are certain applications where the asphalt surface may be too far gone, and we may recommend something different, something that perhaps adds structure. And we typically like to be on any asphalt pavement or roadway or street that is 35 miles an hour or less. Now,
okay,
we're approved to go on DOT shoulders here in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, some neighboring southeastern states, the Carolinas as well. But when it comes to the community streets, the most important thing is to ultimately lower that cost of ownership, but also give it some aesthetic benefit, a value that your average resident can see.
Yeah.
Pavement preservation treatments are designed to give a mechanical benefit to extend the useful service life, but it's nice to see that solid black for a very, very long time to make it look new, and at least appear to be new and in good shape.
So what is it? Is it like what does it look like? This stuff that you guys apply, is it clear?
No, it's an asphalt product.
Okay.
There's no environmentally harmful components. There's no coal tars. There's no PAH. There's no tar of any kind. It's an asphalt product compatible with any petroleum product out there. It is what's called an emulsion, which has a certain percent of water in it, and that allows it to be applied in a spray form.
Okay.
It does not take heat to apply. It can be applied at ambient temperature, which makes it conducive virtually any time of the year. It gets a little challenging during the rainy season,
Yeah.
but it's applied like any other pavement preservation treatment for the most part on existing asphalt pavements. This one is sprayed. It's a 2-coat process. Many people ask how it's applied as far as the thickness or the depth.
Yeah.
And most surface treatments are measured by tenths of a gallon per square yard.
Gotcha.
Ours is a 0.36 gallons per square yard. And basically, after the second coat, it's about as thick as a dime, to give you an idea.
Right. Okay. Okay. So when you apply the first layer, how long does it take it to dry? And then you can go, I'm trying to figure out from a planning process, how long does it take to do that?
Yeah. And that's a very good question, because many objections that we get are, how long do I have to keep my roads closed, my parking area closed, my street?
Yeah.
And one thing that we've learned in Florida, so we do a lot of applications in Arizona, a lot in Southern California, a lot in Nevada, specifically in Las Vegas, in Southern Utah, and they have the same heat that we have here in Florida, but their humidity is way low and they don't have the moisture. So what we've learned here in Florida, as opposed to doing, say, 2 applications in one day, out west, we may go ahead and do 1 application at 8 a.m., follow up with a second application the same day at 2 p.m., open up the roads by 7 or 8 p.m. that same day.
Wow.
Here in Florida, because of the humidity, we've learned that we can really be more effective and not have any issues with the treatment if we let it cure a full 24 hours. So it's a 2-day process.
That's still not bad though.
It's not really. Most people understand for that inconvenience, they won't have to deal with it again for 8 or 9 years. And that's the typical reapplication rate that we have with any asphalt pavement here in Florida, is we're reapplying in about every 8 to 9 years. And it's worth the wait. It's a minor inconvenience by perspective when you look at the entire application process and what is actually saving the community. And that's what everybody really tends to boil down to, is what is our savings if we do this?
If an asphalt contractor is they've come out and they lay the asphalt, right?
Mm-hmm.
How quickly do you think that, how long is that going to last? 5 years, maybe? A new tar and all that?
It really depends on the type of treatment. Now, if you're talking hot mix asphalt, new asphalt, whether it's in a patch or a resurface of a fairly large area, say a parking lot, when it goes down, it's nice and black as my shirt, right? But you'll see within that first year how the air and the sunlight oxidize and discolor, and it whitens. It grays out first, and it whitens out very, very quickly within that first year. So 90% of your oxidized asphalt exists in the top 3/8 layer of that surface. So that climate-related damage begins immediately. It actually begins while the asphalt is being produced at a very high temperature, 325 to 350 degrees at the plant. Heat tends to begin to break that asphalt binder down. And the binder represents 6% of the overall asphalt product. 94% of that is actually your rock. The binder, even though it's only 6% on average, is the glue that holds all that together. So that's the most critical. It oxidizes so quickly. How can we keep that flexible and pliable? The key is to get on it early enough before it gets so bad to where just the torquing of the tires combined with the intrusion of moisture from rain ravel that rock, those small aggregates, those sands and fines, and they start coming out. And then you start having a surface, which I know you're very familiar with heavy raveling, to moderate to heavy raveling, and which just allows more moisture in quicker and accelerates the degradation of the asphalt. And it just gets that bony look. And it's pretty tough,
you can
to
see
stay
it.
ahead of that.
And that's what, like, that's your first sign that you're going to you're beginning that phase of starting to have problems with your asphalt, is when you start to see the rocks start to come up on the side. You see them on the side of the roads, and that's just piece by piece. And before you know it, the rain comes and you might have a underneath washout, and then next thing you know, you got a pothole. So I guess from the standpoint is it's a savings. I mean, to apply to, I'm not going to ask you for a price, but to apply your product versus going and having another resurfacing done, how does that compare?
So we are a little less than a third of the cost of asphalt paving. Okay. Now, in our day and time, as we speak right now, we're seeing crude oil, refinery prices. We're starting to see liquid AC go up. We're obviously seeing fuel at the pump as consumers when we all drive back and forth to work and wherever we go. It's a little crazy. And so obviously all the prices are increasing a little bit, but they're all pretty much in proportionate ratio, right? But we're on average of about a third to a little bit less than a third of the cost of new paving. Okay. And the whole idea is that you have a pavement structure that any design engineer, a materials engineer will tell you, I can design a road to last 45, 50 years. And they are 100% right. They can. When you look at rock, rock has been, the aggregates have been on this earth for millions of years. It's the glue that holds that together. And the refining technologies today are such that they take so much good stuff. It's kind of known as gas stocks, but they take so much good material out of the crude during the refining process that what's left, the flux and the asphalt, just doesn't respond very well to the environment. So, when we were kids, and I kind of grew up in the country, so when they go out and pave our road, I would smell those oils for 6 months, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it would stay black for maybe a year and a half, it would seem, something like that. We see it gray out today in 6 months, and we might be lucky to smell those volatiles, if you will, for maybe a month, right? Maybe a month and a half. So the refining technologies have changed. The quality of the asphalt binder is not what it used to be. So we have to find a way to kind of counter that and lock those vital oils in early, so that you always have that flexibility with that asphalt pavement, so that you can get a very, very long life out of it.
Yeah. Well, what would you tell a manager as far as like coming in and talking to a board of directors?
Well, what we do is, and I personally am licensed by the state of Florida to teach association managers different strategies to implement to extend and lower the ownership cost of their streets.
Okay.
And I do that in conjunction, with them and also with the board members. So it's an education process. I have had the luxury. I've been in the road building business since '92. I've been in pavement preservation for 23 years. So I've had the pleasure of dealing with everything from a very early stage preservation treatment, such as crack fill, a variety of different materials, methods, and types, from seal coating to surface applied rejuvenators, whether that's a petroleum or a green chemistry formulation, to microsurfacing, slurry seals, high density mineral bond, which is what our company does, and even asphalt paving. So we'll assess what they have, and we will educate them on the different types of treatments available. And I've even referred them to some competitors, for example, because we've seen some applications or some existing conditions of some streets in some communities where I go through with my education and teach them about all the different variety of treatments available in the industry and what I think is best for them. Yeah. But it wouldn't be my product, because either they were just, their surface was just too far gone and I can't add structure, or it's too far gone, period. And that maybe they should spend the next couple of years deal with what they can with some small patchwork and crack fill, primarily to keep that water from destroying the base. But give them maybe 2 years to allocate more money to come in and totally repave it. And it's unfortunate because in today's prices, you're looking at as they're increasing $14+ per yard for hot mix asphalt for a mill and resurface, and that's typically taken off 1 inch to 1.5 inches and putting 1 inch to 1.5 inches back on. It gets very, very expensive. And a lot of the other treatments that are available are typically under $3 and $4 a square yard, for example. So it's quite a savings. So there's a lot of different options, but that's what we do. We'll evaluate what they have. We'll explain the different treatments available and recommend an option for them.
Okay, I like that you said that. I mean, the good thing about your product is that if you were to if there were companies out there that tried to just put that on anything, but if you were to spray your product on just any old road and it doesn't save the life of the road because the road is too far gone, that just makes your product look bad. So you're not going to want to do that.
No, you're right. You really don't want to set yourself up for a failure, so to speak. And again, I've had, rejuvenators work, high density mineral bond works, micro surfacing works, and but it just depends on what the needs are. And again, it's always based on the overall age, condition, and porosity of the existing surface, and what's going to be the best bang for your buck, right?
Yeah.
And it's, they're different technologies. They do work. I mean, essentially what a high density mineral bond does is starve the asphalt from oxygen. It blocks the sunlight and UV rays, and it absolutely stops water intrusion. There's one thing that's very nice about that is, and what I tell people is 98% of what I see in Florida is all climate related damage. And, obviously you have your raveling, your loss of fines and small aggregates, but then you start seeing your top down cracking. And there's a way to slow that and mitigate that accelerated loss as it begins. There's a lot of different methods to do that, but the most damaging is water intrusion. And if you can't stop that, you're not doing yourself a great favor. And so that's the biggest key that I like to focus on with folks when I speak to them. I can come out and do a non-CE course, or I can do a CE course. Obviously it's all centered around enabling and making everybody understand what's available in the industry and what works best based on what they have. And we like to lay out the options and then let the board choose what they decide to do, what's best for them, whether it's what meets their budget, or if budget's always a concern, but if they have the money, okay, what's the biggest benefit for the cost that they're going to put out there? And what's the long-term ROI if we do this versus this,
I can imagine for you, it's hard to find people because you're getting them at that stage where, it's almost just, I like to tell people something, it's a tough sell. Because if they say, well, we just took care of all that, we just did all that, and they don't want to listen any further. No, we just did all that, and when you're trying to talk to a board that doesn't want to spend money,
right?
That's the just struggle we have in our industry now is people not wanting to look long term. They just want to take care of the what's wrong today problems and not look at what do we need to build a reserve and to keep things, So it is a struggle.
You're 100% right. That's always a challenge for these association managers because these are big ticket items, but the alternative is the same ticket 3 times as much. And, recently, I won't mention the name, I won't even mention the area in Florida, but it was a large community. I am speaking with them about pavement preservation options. They have hundreds of properties throughout the state. This one was a large, very high-end community. However, they just recently, and this was last year, had to replace 3.4 miles of asphalt streets in their community to the tune of $1.4 million, which they didn't anticipate spending. And that asphalt pavement was only 8 years old. It was.
I'm sorry, was the street paved of gold?
Yeah, I know. It's just the cost of asphalt today. Again, it is your absolutely most expensive piece of infrastructure in any community. And the same applies to city agencies. I mean, you've got parks and recreation. You certainly have your police, fire facilities and equipment. But any city agency you talk to, any public works director, and I know I'm kind of shifting gears a little bit, but they're not much different from people that live in the community and association managers and board members. They too have a budget. And they're like, okay, how do we take care of all these roads? I've got 400 miles of roads in my city that I have to take care of. And how am I going to budget? I only have so much money a year. And it's taxpayer money, yes, but I still have to spend it wisely. And I've got to get, the biggest bang for my buck. And I just can't, it's unsustainable to just repave. So, for really what I found very interesting in my career is just the interest, really in the past 25 years, in preserving pavement, extending the useful service life of pavement. And there's a lot of treatments available that are effective in doing that. You just have to have the mindset to do it, and it takes a discipline to do it. Like you said, it's a discipline for a manager to sit in front of their board and say, well, I know that we did this 5 years ago. And you also did it 5 years before that, and it costs, let's say, $20,000, for example. But it seems to me like we now need this, and this is now going to cost $90,000. You're going to see a lot of jaws drop and people take deep sighs. But the alternative is you're going to spend $350,000 in the next 2 to 3 years if you don't do this. Well, and maybe 2 to 3 years is a little accelerated, but 5 years from now, you can definitely expect that to happen. Do you want to do that?
I love this. This is good. I have seen some of these products out there, and I didn't realize there were so many different ones. You're based in Florida though?
What we do have our warehouse and our yard, as we call it, where all of our equipment is staged and housed. And our storage tanks are in up near the villages in Wildwood. So
okay, you're centralized there. That's not a bad area.
We are. We've got satellite location down around Fort Lauderdale. We'll stage equipment when we're doing projects down in southeastern Florida, and then we'll typically mobilize from Central Florida, another location down if we're doing something, say in Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Naples, something like that. So we move around quite a bit.
All right. Well, thank you for joining Cam Matrix, and thank you for being here today. And I do look forward to doing some education with you. Is there anything else you want to close with?
No, I mean, thank you. I feel very welcomed to be here. I think I can add a lot to the group and attendees and participants with your organization, your network, and I think it'll be a good value add for them at the very least. So I'm happy to be on board and look forward to seeing you real soon, Carrie.